This video provides a comprehensive introduction to calculating UFIs, creating PCN dossiers, and reporting electronically to ECHA. If you're only interested in accomplishing PCN notifications as quickly as possible and without significant effort, then we recommend our video, which contains a summary of all the necessary steps, starting from company installation and ending in mass notification to ECHA.
Note that in this video the progress bar for each chapter is divided, giving you easy access to individual chapters of this video. If you click on a chapter name in the footer, then a list of all chapters appears on the right, which you can then call up directly by clicking on them.
UFI is the abbreviation for Unique Formula Identifier and is simply a 16-digit code that is calculated in a very complicated way but contains virtually no information. The components of the UFI code are usually only the country, the tax number and a sequential number, which is used for identification at ECHA. The UFI itself has no meaning yet. It only serves as an identifier in the PCN-Dossier later on. ChemGes calculates all UFIs automatically. There is no reason to have the UFI calculated on the ECHA website, as the result will be identical. In principle, UFIs must be generated for all hazardous mixtures unless they fall under one of the listed exemptions. You can also voluntarily generate and report UFIs for non-hazardous preparations. ChemGes provides a setting for this. Until 2024, PCN dossiers need not be reported for chemicals that are intended for industrial use only. PCN dossiers require a relatively large extract from your database. Fortunately, ChemGes can automatically extract this information from your data and generate complete PCN dossiers. Unless you want to make manual changes, this requires no significant effort for ChemGes users. The recipients of these PCN dossiers are exclusively public authorities. According to ECHA, there is no risk that unauthorized persons could obtain this data. If you wish to have more information, you can find it at ECHA or in the downloads on our website. There is also a plethora of publications from other organizations that you can easily find on the Internet. All settings for UFIs and PCN notifications can be found in the country-specific classifications of each preparation. The first step to generate a UFI code is to create a company. To do this, click into the field for the company name. A list of existing companies created for the SDS will appear. With right-click you now can select one of these companies and add any necessary information, or you can create a new company. Since in principle there is no difference between the two types of companies, we right-click to select the first company displayed. Even a new creation makes no difference, except that all fields are empty. Most of the required information should already be filled out. Add the necessary information to all lines marked with asterisks. The VAT ID is your sales tax identification number and is mandatory. Enter it as it appears on your tax forms. If you do not have your own tax number or do not want to disclose it, you can request a company key from ECHA on this website. If you need to manage PCN dossiers for several companies, you can define a company that will be used as default when a preparation is newly created. This means that for each new preparation the company marked as default will be pre-filled and you will only have to change the exceptions. The internal counter shows how many UFIs have already been calculated for a VAT ID and will have little meaning for you. This counter is used to make UFIs unique. You would only have to change this number if you have already created UFIs with another software or manually and a certain number range has already been used, so that no duplicate assignments of UFIs could happen. The next mandatory step is to enter or transfer the UUID. The abbreviation UUID stands for Universally Unique Identifier. If you already have an ECHA account, the UUID is the number of the legal entity. You can go directly to the ECHA website from the Maintenance of Companies. Log in with your username and password. At the legal entity name you will find your UUID. Simply copy and paste this into your UUID field. If you already have an ECHA account, you can avoid the input in the company screen and take over all data from the ECHA account. To do this, click either the legal entity button or the company name. Click Export and save the file generated by the system. Then click on the button, Transfer Data from an ECHA legal entity. Select the previously created file or drag and drop it into this window and let the system read it. You will notice that you have various opportunities to access the ECHA web pages from a wide variety of screens. Please pay attention to the buttons and options shown. This way you can be sure that whenever you might need an option, it will be available. We will not show again how to export or import files, because the principle is the same everywhere and it is assumed that the user is familiar with the procedure. If you do not yet have an account with ECHA, you can create one with a few mouse clicks. To do this, simply select the option to import into the ECHA PCN portal. Not only is a file created that contains the entries already made, but a valid UUID is also created and entered at the same time. Save the generated file. You can then use it to transfer the data directly to the ECHA account without having to enter it again. The next step is to go directly from ChemGes to the ECHA portal. Select Create an ECHA account, enter the contact information and click Create User. ECHA will then send you an email, which you will need to confirm. Then log in with the new username and password. Since no legal entity exists yet, click Add New. Then activate the creation method, item. Select the previously created file, import it, add the additional information and the account creation is complete. An S₂S key is optional, but is necessary for ChemGes to send the PCN directly to ECHA. Unfortunately, an S₂S key must be applied for at ECHA. Processing at ECHA can take several weeks. In order to apply, first click on the link, How to join the ECHA system to System Integration Service, and then on the link for the ECHA contact form. Copy the text from the description, change the content where necessary, fill in the rest and submit the form. After a while, you will receive a response from ECHA via email. Confirm this email. Now you have to assign yourself the right to manage S₂S keys. To do this, click on ECHA Applications, then on the legal entity name, Users, on the username, on Edit. In the user profile, simply click into the line on the right and activate S₂S Keys Manager. Save and afterwards select S₂S Keys. Click on Actions and you will receive a new S₂S key. You can now either copy it to ChemGes using copy and paste, or export it and then import it into ChemGes. Please do not open the created file under any circumstances, as this will almost always destroy it. If you wish, you can then test the access to ECHA. If the test does not work, then it is either because the UUID and S₂S key do not match, or if you can rule that out, then it will be because of your firewall settings. In this case, your IT must configure the firewall as stated in the description. If a company with VAT ID exists, then a UFI is calculated immediately. If you see only a hyphen instead of the UFI, it means that the product has no hazards that require the calculation of a UFI. You can activate that UFIs are also calculated for non-hazardous preparations. If you see an ECHA symbol next to your UFI and another UFI including the date, then this is a UFI that has already been reported. Next to the UFI you will see some icons. The arrow in the three-quarter circle can be used to calculate a new UFI at any time. The magnifying glass with the eye for information means that you can display previously used UFIs. If you want to lock a UFI against recalculation or enter a supplier UFI, just go to the field, press Enter and the field will be displayed with a red tone. A lock icon next to the UFI indicates that it has been locked. Clicking on this icon will unlock it. UFIs are recalculated whenever there is a significant change in the formulation, based upon a precise definition of what is significant. There are a number of settings that can be used to determine when and for which substances UFIs are recalculated. To enter the settings, click on the gear icon. If you create preparations which in turn consist of 100% of another preparation, then in order to minimize the number of UFIs created, you can specify that the UFI is taken from these other preparations. ECHA has not provided for this and you will get a warning with the PCN notification. But the PCN notification will not be rejected. Normally, you would not need to create a separate UFI for variants. The main argument for doing so is that many companies sell identical products with different names at different prices. Therefore, some of our customers are concerned that individuals or organizations might compare UFIs and notice that the products are identical. This usually cannot happen, since similar products can also have the same UFIs, but it can definitely be prevented with this. However, you should be aware that in some countries, PCN reporting is subject to fees. In this video, we do not specify countries that charge fees, as final decisions have not yet been made everywhere in this regard. If UFIs are activated for variants, then these are calculated immediately when the variants are opened. Move the mouse over one of the checkboxes and the UFI will be displayed. To identify the status of the UFI, there is a color coding, where blue means that it is the main substance. Black is an automatically calculated UFI, red is a locked UFI and gray is a UFI taken from the main substance. Go to one of the variants. Change the company and you will notice that the UFI changes immediately, provided that the company has its own VAT ID. You can also specify that individual variants should not be included in the PCN-Dossier. In addition, it is possible to specify the market placement as well as the packaging separately per variant for the PCN notification. Variants can also be reported individually. You can disable the automatic recalculation of UFIs, but then you have to manage the recalculation of new UFIs by yourself. The rules require UFIs to be issued only for hazardous preparations. However, you can also make voluntary notifications for non-hazardous preparations, and this requires a UFI. The output of the UFI is necessary in both the safety datasheet and in the label. In the safety datasheet, the corresponding heading for EU countries has been activated automatically. For the labels, you must define the output of the UFI at the desired position in the label template. You can also specify whether the most recent UFI should always be output, or the last reported UFI. While ChemGes covers all of these options, we advise against using them unless absolutely necessary. Otherwise, you may increase the administrative work and the costs for the reports enormously for yourself, without having any significant benefits from it. EuPCS is the abbreviation for European Product Categorization System and a required piece of information in the PCN-Dossier. Up to 4 categories can be selected per product, whereby one category must be defined as the main category. If one of the selected categories belongs to the group of biocides, then this must be the main category. ChemGes does this automatically. The way this system is set up, there are few options to automatically assign EuPCS and normally you would have to do it manually for each product. Our team at DR Software has come up with a system for deriving EuPCSs from existing information. In the process, a wide variety of indicators, which are already defined in ChemGes, are linked to the EuPCS. To define these allocations, click again on the button with the 3 gears to enter the maintenance programs. The principle is the same everywhere, so we will show you how this system works by means of an article group allocation. A EuPCS is selected and then an article group. This means quite simply, if this article group is selected, then this assigned EuPCS is output. UFIs and PC codes are taken from the safety datasheets. For the PC codes, EuPCS has already made some allocations. However, since it is impossible to accomplish a perfect one-to-one allocation, as there are much less PC codes than EuPCS, you can make further allocations here that better fit your product range. If no EuPCS could be determined from the existing allocations, the code you predefined for this case is output. Move the mouse over the large question mark and you will get a detailed explanation of how and in which order allocations are searched. If 4 allocations were found, the search is aborted, since a maximum of 4 EuPCSs are permitted. Since most of our customers make do with a limited number of EuPCSs, you can predefine which EuPCSs are displayed at the top of the overview. Some of our customers have information stored in their main system that can be used for automatic allocation of EuPCSs. For this purpose, we have developed a transfer program. Click on the appropriate button and you will receive comprehensive instructions regarding the file structure. The transfer program for already defined EuPCSs operates similarly. This allocation also works for variants. This means that variants can have different EuPCSs depending on the information stored there. If this is not desired, you can turn it off. There are also different presets for the PCN-Dossier. Keep in mind that the more you predefine, the better and more complete ChemGes can fill out your PCN-Dossier. EuPCS only allows for a small number of different color codes, so you can only do your best to match the colors of your own products to the EuPCS color codes. We have already assigned color codes to all colors supplied by DR software. Thus you only need to make additions for colors you have created yourself. The packaging commonly used in your company can be predefined separately for each state of aggregation. Multiple entries are possible. Since no one will look at the exact package size in the event of an accident, it is most likely okay to provide the approximate package sizes. EuPCS has specified exactly which packaging types are possible. Only EuPCS can make changes and additions to these. If you do not define a default value for the market placement, then notifications will be done for the countries for which safety datasheets have already been created. A particular problem for many of our customers is that EuPCS always requires a pH value, or one of the alternatives accepted by EuPCS in the PCN-Dossier. If your company manufactures a relatively large number of products with uniform properties in terms of pH values, then you can specify a pH value range or a reason for its absence, which will always be output in the dossier if no value has been entered in the pH value field for the preparation. Many of our customers enter only the hazardous ingredients in the recipe. Since a dossier must contain at least 70% ingredients, ChemGes can automatically fill all preparations with a lower percentage with water. EuPCS does not specify exactly how the percentage ranges have to look like, but only the maximum ranges for hazardous and for non-hazardous components. You can make various test entries to immediately see what the result would look like in the PCN-Dossier. If you want to change the type of output, click on one of the lines. The selection will then be displayed in blue. Please note, however, that changes in this area would in many cases result in the output of new UFIs. It is best to change these defaults only if you have not yet made any PCN notifications, or if other percentage ranges are of particular importance to you. ICGs and standard recipes are explained in the following section of this video. MiM is the abbreviation for mixture in mixture. MiMs are precursors from other manufacturers that you use in your own recipes. You cannot make MiMs for yourself and use them in your own preparations since you know of what your own products are made. You do not have to use MiMs if you know at least 70% of the MiM recipe. It is up to you, of course, but it only means extra work for you to define MiMs when this is not necessary. If the UFI of the MiM is known and has also been reported to ECHA, then the indication of the UFI is sufficient. From the reported UFI, ECHA can then acquire all the necessary information. If the UFI is not known or has not yet been reported, then simply write a hyphen in the UFI field instead of the UFI. In this case, all supplier information such as name, email address, and phone number must be reported. If necessary, create a new supplier as described at the beginning of this video. Since you can never know whether a supplier has actually made a PCN notification, you should definitely assign the correct company. You can specify the countries where the MiM has already been reported. This is an indication for your information only, as ECHA also accepts it if the supplier's reporting countries do not match your reporting countries. In this case, you will only receive a warning during the PCN notification. Make sure that all components and percentages have been taken over into your formulation from the safety datasheet. ChemGes then knows how these ingredients must be output in the PCN-Dossier. You cannot report MiMs by yourself, as these should already have been reported by your supplier. However, if you want to do this anyway, it is best to create a 100% recipe with this MiM. Alternatively, you can create a variant with this MiM. ChemGes recognizes this and automatically makes a 100% recipe out of it, which can be notified. Perfumes and colorants can be grouped together, provided they are not dangerous and do not exceed the defined maximum percentage. In the PCN-Dossier, only the group name together with the total percentage must then be indicated. The individual components of these groups no longer have to be reported. ChemGes generates these groups automatically. You only have to define which of your substances are perfumes or dyes. In the case of raw materials, the corresponding substance groups must be activated for this purpose. Since MiMs can also be colorants or fragrances, you can specify this directly on the country-specific classifications page. ICG is the abbreviation for Interchangeable Component Group. Simple recipes can become extremely complex as a result and therefore difficult to verify, but the advantage is that a new UFI does not need to be calculated as often. ChemGes forms ICGs automatically, but of course all necessary definitions must be made beforehand. Here we will show this by means of a simple formulation. You can, of course, use your own raw materials, but to show the principle, let's create a few of our own raw materials without hazards. After creating the first raw material, go to the substance groups. Since no substance group has been created yet to be used for the ICGs, go to the Maintenance of Substance Groups and there to New Creation. Create the new substance group, activate that it should be used for ICGs and assign this substance group to the raw material. Now that only the additional raw materials need to be created, we will run through that in high speed. Now, with a simple keystroke, we can break down the formula and see how it is reported to ECHA. In this shown result, the automatic creation of ICGs is not yet activated. Thus, you see all recipe ingredients except the ingredient with 0%. Let's go to the settings and switch on the automatic creation of ICGs and standard formulas. When you break down the formula again, you will see that ChemGes has automatically formed an ICG that also contains the 0% ingredient. Here is the original formula split for comparison. There may not be that much difference to be seen yet, but if ingredients with different hazards are present, then a different ICG is formed for each hazard. The number of formula lines thus will increase significantly. MiMs can also parts of ICGs. To do this, simply assign a substance group to your MiM. We have illustrated this here with an example. Now we create a preparation which consists of 50% of the first created formula and 50% of the MiM just shown. Compare the results. The advantage of using ICGs is that you can now arbitrarily exchange all ingredients within an ICG in the formula without creating a new UFI. To enable the arbitrary exchange of all possible ingredients, the 0% ingredients are also reported. The downside is that you must assign substance groups to all the raw materials and MiMs you wish to use for ICGs. In the output column, you can see which percentage values are reported to ECHA. Standard formulas are intended only for companies selling fuels, or different types of cement, gypsum binders or ready-mix concrete. There are 14 types of fuels. The composition is not predefined, so the type of fuel cannot be automatically recognized by ChemGes. However, the assignment is extremely simple. Simply click on Standard Formula for Fuel. Select the type that applies to you and you are done. The program knows how to generate the dossier. Standard formulas with predefined composition are somewhat more complicated. Let's take the first of the two ready-mixed concrete standard formulas as an example. Most of the ingredients are defined by the EC number. However, since ChemGes cannot know which raw materials are concrete air entrainers, plasticizers, retarders or accelerators, these raw materials must be assigned to substance groups so that ICGs can subsequently be formed. But this is also quite simple. Just as already shown with the ICGs, you simply assign the appropriate substance group to the raw material or MiM. ChemGes now detects by itself whether all conditions for a standard formula are met. It also recognizes special cases, such as 20% ICG and 80% standard formula or mixtures of several standard formulas. If the percentage of some ingredients is higher than the amount allowed for a specific standard formula ingredient, the maximum possible percentage is counted as part of the standard formula and the rest is shown separately. To generate a PCN-Dossier, click on the PCN button. If this button is crossed out, then a window opens showing which information is missing. In this example, the formula contains less than 70% ingredients. We correct this and can now generate the dossier. Normally, with the appropriate, correct presets, this is not even necessary, but we will now change the market placement and the type of packaging. Note that you can only select countries for which you have purchased one of the permitted notification languages. If a country allows to make the PCN notification in either the national language or in English, and you have not purchased the national language, then reporting using ChemGes is still possible in English. If you are looking for Great Britain in the list of countries, Great Britain is no longer part of the EU and therefore PCN notifications for Great Britain are not possible. The emergency contact is only required if you want to make a limited submission. Limited submissions are only allowed if the mixture is intended for industrial use only. The creation of an emergency contact is quite simple and therefore does not need to be shown. Click on one of the three buttons provided to create a PCN dossier. If you already have an S₂S key, you can send the dossier directly to ECHA. Alternatively, you can manually transfer the dossier onto the ECHA website. The transmission of variants is basically the same, except that you also can notify individual variants. The next time you click on PCN, you will see all the important data about the PCN notification, such as PCN number, the submission number and the status. It happens relatively often that the ECHA computers are backlogged. In this case, the message that the submission was successful comes back later. However, the transfer itself has taken place in any case, unless you receive a message that the transfer itself was unsuccessful. You can check the status of your submission at any time and bring it up to date by either clicking in the status bar or on the corresponding button. There you will find additional data on your notification and also a link to access more detailed information about your notification directly from ECHA. You can also check directly if an update notification is required. Normally this will never be necessary, because ChemGes stores all necessary information, but you can always force a new initial submission or an update submission, where you can also specify the reasons for the altered dossier. To choose such an option should only be necessary in exceptional cases, as ECHA will recognize if the notifications do not match the data stored at ECHA. For the transmission of PCN mass notifications, an S₂S key is mandatory, since individual notifications are generated for each product, which are then transmitted to ECHA. Since entering the various selection criteria can be quite time-consuming, you can save various notification definitions and then call them up again later. We now start with a new definition. If you do not enter anything in this screen, ChemGes will automatically check all existing preparations and, if necessary, perform all initial and update notifications. We would recommend never changing anything in the notification types and notification options sections, as ChemGes has all the information stored regarding already performed PCN notifications and knows what type of notifications need to be made with what information. In the company field, you only need to make a selection if your system is set up to create the PCN dossiers for several companies and you want to notify only for a single company. In case you already have a file with preparation numbers or product codes to be processed, then this can be imported and other substance selection criteria will be ignored. If you only want to check which new and altered notifications are required to be sent, you can also check that directly here. The results of the check are then output in an Excel file. After the end of the mass notification, an Excel file with a comprehensive log is opened.